An honor and delight on this episode of Words, Images, and Worlds to be talking with author, scholar, Dr. Tony Adams. Dr. Adams, you're the chair of a department, I believe, and a professor at Bradley University. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
I imagine it's a lot of work to be a chair.
It is, yes. It's this is my 11th year as a department chair, so I will be finished up in May. I've just had my run. It's a lot. I call myself a firewall, and it's fantastic. It's a good firewall in the sense that I do a lot of work with students and faculty, but also higher administration, and I'm there to buffer both sides. And so it's a lot of emotional labor, but it's an important role to do.
The chair as article or furniture is always the place that I stack things. So that's the image that comes to mind. You just sort of put something on the chair, something else goes to the chair, that sort of thing.
Yes. Well, that happens too. Yeah.
Yeah,
People stack plenty on me or try to,
yeah,
literally
yeah.
and figuratively.
We're talking on this episode about your work in qualitative research and autoethnography, and
Sure.
we can roam anywhere in your interests that you'd like. But curious, a qualitative question would be like, what's it like to be a chair? But I'm curious what led you to qualitative research, what attracted you to it.
Yeah, that's a fun thing to think about, and it's one of those questions that it's there was never I don't feel like there was ever a moment where I said I'm becoming this, and it
Mhm.
just sort of happened with time over and over again that just I became a qualitative researcher. Two things that I think about, well, a few things. I'm a really curious person, and I love watching human behavior and identifying patterns, watching people. I know that sounds creepy, but that's what ethnographers do. I just like
Yeah,
sort of
it totally is.
Right? I just sort of sit
Mhm.
back and watch things. I remember as a as a child, I came from a rural town of about, I mean, it wasn't that small, but it was about 30,000 people. But as a child, when we would, I lived in the country, and so I would always have to have rides to school in the city. I would memorize license plates. And
Oh,
so
wow.
and so I remember, like, I had so many cars memorized, like just driving with my parents, and I'm like, oh, there's this car. I've seen that there. And so that's a pattern. That's watching people's movements, and a little creepy, but that's what ethnographers do. I also my undergrad was in journalism, which sort of gets into some of my storytelling. I think that that's where my interest in people stems from, and storytelling. I was trained I wanted to get into radio, television, news reporting. I learned very quickly I didn't like that because in some ways it was very invasive on some of the difficult topics. I felt like the easy stuff, I remember, I had two big assignments that were formative. One was going to a city council meeting and they increased the price of the water. And my task in my class was to talk with attendees, citizens, saying, "Hey, how do you feel about this water increase?" And I'd get those stories. But then there was a tragic accident where a mother and a child were in a car accident, and the child died. And my task was to find the mother and interview the mother of how you felt. And I'm like, I can't. That's not for me. I can't do that. That feels so invasive, and to take that person's story, to story it, and then put it out there in the world. I felt really invasive, and that sort of pushed me away from um, sort of what I thought would be my career. But then I get into graduate school, and that's what some researchers do, and that's sort of if you're doing some interviewing, but it's less, it's less immediate and pressing. So hard news, quick news. I think that that's where I realized I wasn't good at. It's the feature writing, it's the literary journalism, it's the slow The slow process of writing is what I love, which was perfect for qualitative research.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I like numbers, I like math, but I just love the qualitative much more. I appreciate context and nuance, and I live in a world of absolute gray, and everything I read is, yeah, but there's more to the story. There's so much more you could history, future, pressing needs. Yeah.
You were talking about the moment you realize you become a qualitative researcher, and I imagine that's a rare moment. I had a professor in my doc program tell me, do you need this moment? Do you need me to knight you? At what point are you just going to own this? So there's that part of the journey, and then what you were saying about the invasive nature, just thinking about we now have IRBs and approvals and all of these sort of taking care of people's steps that seem so important in research.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that comes right
Yeah,
in. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, what do you feel like is the role of story when it comes to researching?
Yeah, I view the rule of the use of story in two ways, primarily, and they're absolutely related. One, I fully believe we learn so much about the world through story. Telling people stories, you can just watch people light up listening to them, but
Hmm.
also they're just so enjoyable. And I think that there's an important, dare I say, subversive aspect from a research perspective that I believe that we understand the world through stories. I mean, I'm working on a project right now about queer films that I live with to this day that inform my everyday existence that I think about so many moments throughout the day that I live with the stories that I've been exposed to, but also putting my work out there in story, I think is a great way for people are going to read and engage those works, whatever form they are. My doctoral advisor was Art Bachner, and he would throw out a I mean, this is really simple, but I think it's profound in simplicity. He would ask all of his students, "Do you want 5 people to read your work or 5,000 people to read your work?" And that was enough. That their story
Hmm.
done. I in my discipline of communication, I get their all of the journals every month. Um, I wish they would tell more stories because so much of it is boring and esoteric. And I'm like, just tell me a story, and you're going to get your work you're engaged. So I say that not to, it's just not me. I like, and that's something that's happened with age. Even in my work, I've become increasingly story focused because I learn from story, and I think people learn from story.
There is an accessibility to it, and there's always kind of that temptation to be esoteric, right? In academia and to
Yeah.
dress things up a certain way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. That sometimes it's helpful. I mean, I get the important point of sort of, building on previous. Sometimes you need that jargon and those dense thoughts to get us somewhere, but how can we
Mhm.
translate it back into a story form, which is cool. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
I am. Oh, same, same.
Yeah.
I am also a film fan. I love the stories that are told in film and the way that media lives with us and resonates in us and through us.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And I think of uh, Kenneth Burke's she has a chapter, but his line, literature is equipment for living. That's how I view
Mm-hmm.
story. That these are things that we try on, we wear, we use our stories to maneuver social situations in the world. Why I want to be a part of that, and I want to hear those stories and get those stories from people. Because
Yeah.
that's yeah, that's I love living like that.
I love that quote. I'm going to lead a class with that tomorrow. I love that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Literature is equipment for living. I think it's in his book Philosophy as Literary Form from 1973, 1974.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Nice on the spot citational authority as well. Very well done.
It's like the license plates.
That's right.
It's that kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't have the page number
Now,
for you.
yeah, when it comes to your work, what are some critical stories that you feel like need to be told that still need more attention?
I broadly, so here's my broad response is if we are interested in doing social research, any of us, whatever we put into that social category and that research process category, everything needs to be on the table.
Hmm. Hmm.
If it matters to us, especially socially, if it matters to us personally, I know we are not alone with so many issues in life. The reason why I say that, and I start with that, is that I think that you mentioned the IRB.
Hmm.
Love the IR. I appreciate the IRB for some projects. Um, if we cannot get access to certain topics and situations, especially difficult ones, we're all in trouble and we're wasting our time. And so if we can't get access, how do we study? I'm just going to throw some. How do we study childhood sexual abuse? How do we study rape as it happens? How do we study microaggressions as they occur? How do we any of these things? How do we study police brutality as it happens? We will never get out if we can't if we say there's too much red tape to get through that to study that. You know what, we're all fooling ourselves, and that's not to say that this should be the project of all of us, but it should be what are those topics that that I feel like we there are so many aspects of the world that we don't touch because we can't, or we're told that we can't, and we can, and we can do so ethically, maybe not the same way across the topic and the situation, but we got to have access to that. In my discipline of communication, if I read one more study about of people who survey 18 to 22-year-olds at a mid-sized private university in the Midwest about what love means, I want to scream and I want to say you're wasting everybody's time because there are ways to do that differently, and that's fine if you do it one time, but don't keep doing it. I just want to
Right.
scream. In communication, we do a lot with I always call communication as the a discipline that's between sociology and psychology. So we're dealing with self, we're dealing with social structures, we're right there in the middle. In communication, in relationships, and this is so I go back to sort of what I said, we got to study this stuff. In communication, there's only a handful of folks who actually study sex, intimacy, and desire. I call it. I've been. We are a prudish discipline,
Hmm.
and part of it is, people don't want to have those. This isn't. Everybody shouldn't be doing this. I'm not saying that, but even the reactions to the work. Oh my gosh, you're making me blush. You know how
Oh yeah.
sex, intimacy, desire, that's a part of a lot of people's lives. And
Hmm.
if we can't study and figure out how to study so many aspects of it, it could be consent, could be fetish and kink. I mean, all of these factors of our social work, we're ignorant. We're fooling ourselves. And so that goes back to my curiosity and finding ways to maneuver those situations to get at the topics that are understudied. And that's one that a lot of my work, recent work, has been really calling out the discipline, saying, y'all are missing people who are married. I'm assuming some, not all. And then this isn't to advocate anything, but I know that in some relationships, in some whatever we call it, there's intimacy. What does that look like? What is sex? I know people have sex. I know they do, but nobody. You got to see our are classic textbooks in communication on interpersonal communication, family communication. They don't have sex in them at all. They're so
Oh,
sterile, and
wow.
they're so sterile. And I just want to say that's, again, not everybody has to do that work, but to pretend that nobody's like, it's just, oh, we can't touch that. It's too taboo. Get out of here. Yeah. You'll never learn about it, and you're going to have problems of people violating consent. I mean, part of the consent issues, people don't study it enough.
Mhm.
Part of they don't know how to get there, and we're going to stay ignorant um, the less we talk about it or learn about it. But I'm weird. I'm a curious person. Everything's on the table. Everything's on the table.
Humanity and yeah, the Pleasantville approach only leaves so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. I
that
think the
makes sense.
Academy is Pleasantville. I think the Academy is very Pleasantville too. Still, in so many ways.
Yeah. And certainly if you can have conversations about topics, if you can explore topics, that just brings awareness, it brings healthiness, it brings
Yeah.
uh,
I want people to figure out, Amy Bloom, in her she's a journalist writer who she wrote, oh my gosh, I forgot her book. I think it's called In Love, and it's about her husband who uh, went through assisted suicide, and it's a really sweet, beautiful book. And but one of her quotes that I love is, we're not here for a long time, but we're here for a good time, And that's not to say prioritizing pleasure, but it's, hey, we are here for we're not here for a long time. We're just, yeah, little blips, but what can we, I'm just hungry. I'm curious.
yeah,
Because with that, my hope is that I want people to realize the options in their life before it's too late, of things that how ways they can live, experiment with living. And this can be across so many contexts in the most sweet, I just want people to figure out ways to live
yeah.
differently. They don't have to get stuck in social scripts and expectations. They might, but they can if they want to. Like, that's if they want to, absolutely, as long as they know there's other people not doing that.
Uh, are you saying the unexamined life is not worth living? Are you saying
Yes,
that's
I
not a
guess.
Pleasantville approach?
It's yes. Yes.
Somebody living outside of Pleasantville? Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Great, great. Yes, exactly.
So we've been talking about experiences, we've been talking about vulnerabilities,
Mm.
and taking it back to when you were a doctoral student, and
Mhm.
as you've worked with doctoral students, I've been thinking about the vulnerability that people feel in that position, reflecting on my own nervousness when I was going through that process. Uh, Curious, any words that you would offer emerging scholars, or what would you go back and tell yourself as a doc student?
Yeah, good question. What would I go back to tell myself? I'm gonna in back tell myself. So, I I think it's so important here. Okay, so here's something that I prioritized and is that I knew about myself going into my doctoral program. Wanted I wanted to work with people who were kind and supportive and uh, friendly people, because here's what I knew about myself. If I could work with somebody who was supportive and caring as a mentor, I would do my best work because I didn't have to worry. I could sort of not worry about how they would be I wouldn't feel the pressure that, oh my gosh, am I being a good student? I would trust that they would tell me and they would support me. I applied so I went to Southern Illinois University for my master's degree in communication. There were some lovely people there. Ron Pelias, Lenore Langsdorf, who was my master's advisor, who talking with them, they knew this about me, said you want to check out the University of South Florida because there are some really good people there. And I applied to University of South Florida for their PhD program at the end of my master's program, and I was accepted without funding. And so this is sort of a slight reject, and I needed to get my funding, or else I couldn't go. The folks at Carbondale knew my drive, and they said, "Listen, we'll keep you around another year. We'll keep you on an assistantship for one more year. You can apply again." And so I worked really hard. I wanted to go to USF because of the people. Art Bochter was there, Carolyn Ellis were there, a whole Stacy Holman Jones was there, Marcy Shavasta was there, who was one of my undergrad professors who had landed at South Florida. I wanted to go there. There were so many lovely people. But I didn't get accepted with funding, and I needed that funding. The next year, I applied again. I wanted USF. I got accepted. I applied to the University of Massachusetts Amherst too, to as a backup school. And I didn't know any good people there, but it was I really wanted. I told myself I wanted the PhD program. I knew one person at Amherst who I thought I could work with. And when I got the USF, they accepted me with funding. It was the one of the best days of my life, and I'll never forget that. And I told Amherst, no, I didn't want to go to their program. And the person who I thought would work there, he called me, and we had answering machines at the time, and he left a voicemail, a message on my answering machine saying, "Yeah, I just want to talk to you about your decision. You're making the worst decision ever in your life going to that school." And guess what? That was enough to say, I made the best
Yeah.
decision I ever made. And I went to USF, and so find your people is the lesson of that tale. Find your people, do your work of finding where folks are. I This is a part of the advice. This sounds, I don't like this, but I don't like part of this because I don't think it's this cut and dry. I think that there is I guess I never, when I went to, if I want to go to a program, I am bound by that, but what that program does. And so USF's a good example. USF, they only did qualitative research. They were all story focused. There was not a quantitative person on staff there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I was a student who wanted to do some kind of quantitative project at USF, no, no, nobody's going to work with you. But you know what? That's on you because you didn't research the school. Like that's your fault. And so sometimes I see students like they show up to these places and expect people to work with them on their topic or their method or their and it's like you got to have some you got to meet them halfway just as I would hope they would meet you halfway too. There are things to structures to navigate. I also use the example our graduate school at the University of South Florida, they required dissertations to be structured in a particular way.
Mm-hmm.
Your introduction, your lit review, your method, your findings, your discussion, your conclusion. They require that as the graduate school. You know what? I'm a PhD student there. I'll probably be there 4 years. It's not my I don't have the time, energy, or desire to try to push back on that form for that graduate school and make change. Art Bachner, autoethnographer, storyteller, said, "Listen, you got to do your dissertation in this form." But he
Mm-hmm.
wanted me to learn this form, and he was like, "When you're done with this, fly, do what you want, but at least you know this form." And that was really helpful. I see students pushing back on that. Oh, I don't want to follow the. Okay, you know what? You're going to have a harder time getting through your program because you're going to have to fight the graduate school, institutions, maybe even your advisor. It's get the degree, be done, fly away, do the work you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's advice in. I
I
hope
think a
there's some
lot. Yeah,
advice in.
absolutely. Lots of license plates there to note and to track.
Good, good.
Yeah. We also have something in common in that we are both first generation uh, college students, academics.
Yeah.
Anything that you'd like to share on that front about your personal and academic journey and what that's been like?
The primary thing I attribute to my first gen experience, I don't know if this is if you feel this, is what it has allowed me to do as- in a variety of academic contexts, even research practice. Um,
Mhm.
I I feel like I'm a kid. Like, I think it was Bell Hooks, or maybe Terry Eagleton, but I think it was Bell Hooks in Teaching to Transgress said that children make the best theorists because
Mhm.
they're not saturated with norms and expectations. They ask the question, they ask those, right? They ask these questions because they're curious and they don't know that they don't know norms yet necessarily, but that's what makes them good because they're just throwing stuff out in the world because they're inquisitive, and then they, as we age and go through social structures, maybe we become less inquisitive. I don't know. Um, I feel though that my first gen really helps in the academic context because I I don't know. Even to this day, I don't know academic life. Or that's never a part of my world. And so when I come into academic context, it's all new. I have no idea what's going on. It frustrates me. So I see this, it frustrates me. I work with a lot of first gen students at Wright College. They have no idea who a chair is, or a dean, or a provost, even a president. They don't know. But what? You don't know what a chair is or what? No, not at all. I didn't know what a chair was probably until my graduate program, my master's program. And I think that kind of, for me, that's cool. For some folks, that can be really scary because you're navigating this world. But I approach it as I don't know because I never had these conversations. And this goes down to research practice too. It's like I don't. Why are you doing this? Why are you sort of advice for new folks? I feel and I don't know if this is a new thing or if I'm just getting grumpier with age, but I feel like there's a pressure or a new pressure where um, graduate students and younger scholars, I feel like they have something to prove and they come up with these new terms because they're told they have to come up with a unique idea to make their mark on.
Oh, mhm.
I have no idea where that comes from, but I see so many projects like, well, here's the term I'm using, and this is I'm defining, this it's six words long. It's this kind of. I'm like, you are trying really, really hard. Keep it simple. Keep it for
Mhm.
what you want
Mhm.
to do. There's not anything in my any of my skull. I will. There's nothing that I've created. I do work and my work is unique, and I think all of our work's unique. All of our work is going to be unique, but I sure don't try to, here's a new concept that you need to test. But I think that's
Yeah.
an academic, I think that's an old school traditional academic impulse that you need to leave your mark if you're doing this kind of work. I don't know that. For as a first gen, that seems so, why can't I just slide into the stream of study and figure out how to do stuff and then slide out when I'm graduating and do my work? And it's unique. I mean, it's going to be unique, but I'm not, I think all of our stuff when we put our heart and soul in it, it's going to be unique. I don't worry about
Yeah.
that. And maybe people won't read it, and that's okay. I enjoy doing. I have a lot of fun in doing it.
That's the important part, right? And in
Yeah.
academia, no less.
And in academia, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't have to invent your own methodology, just get skilled at the ones that help you do your work.
Yeah, I even think, yeah, even with method, like yeah, yeah, what, knowing how to get there, I try not to get bogged down in method. I sort of stay with,
Mhm.
well, what's going to help me, this project would benefit if I did some interviews with people. Oh my gosh, this project would benefit if I analyze some posts on Reddit. Uh, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
it's sort of like, I don't know, meal prep. It's, what would help this specific project? Now, method comes in and we learn these tools, and that's cool. But I don't. Oh my gosh, you have to do a case study and you have to follow these
Mm,
procedures. Oh, I don't know. That seems too
yeah.
formulaic for my being.
Yeah,
What's your
yeah.
first gen? Like, where do you see your first gen at play? In
I, I'm feeling definitely when you walk in a room, not quite knowing the circulation, the titles of people, which can be kind of fun because otherwise it could potentially hold you back.
Yeah,
And I've learned as I've gotten older just to walk in the room and be, and not overthink it.
yeah,
As a doc student, I remember walking into a quantitative research class and being so nervous, my knee was jumping because, oh my goodness, what happens if they ask me something I don't know? And yeah, I've learned to embrace the fact that there are all sorts of things that nobody knows. Nobody
I
knows.
I learn every day.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. We
That's
are
cool. Well
people
said.
after
Yeah.
all.
We are people after all. Yeah.
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 That's what inspires me about the qualitative process too, or processes, is that I love that idea of meal prep. At the end of the day, you're after the story and the authenticity and the way it comes through. And that resonates more than any term you can make up or
Right.
methodology that you follow a certain way.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. But it
Yeah.
has been a journey. There are those stretching moments as a first gen
Sure.
student, I
Oh,
would say.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Getting comfortable in your skin.
Yeah. Yeah. Can be really scary. And there are plenty of rooms that I walk in and I'm like, oh no. Um, yeah. Am I
Yeah.
stupid? Yeah. But it's like,
Getting comfortable in your hoods, the different types of hoods and what they mean and all those sort of things too.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah. Is there anything that we've missed? It's been a delight talking with you. Is there anything that we've
absolutely.
missed before we get to the final question? The final countdown.
Final count. Na, 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 na. Um, no, yeah, yeah, no, yeah,
There are worlds to talk through, but I want to
yeah,
honor your time.
sure,
I always like to close with any place that people can go to find out more about autoethnography, to find out about your work, to engage. I know that you workshop from time to
sure.
time as well. So anything about that that you'd like to share would be wonderful to part on.
Yeah, uh, where that's the hardest question. Where that's
Just post the
um
office hours.
post the offer. Um, oh, I don't know. Now I'm shy. I
You have
don't.
a website. You
I do
have a
have go to the
website.
website. Go to the website.
That's right.
Yes. Tony
That's
Adams.
right.
That's sort of my little archive that I just throw up stuff that I've done. But I think it's a matter of playing around in the sandbox. What works for you? The one thing I guess I didn't say that matter, I autoethnography. Here's that moment that I think circling back to one of the earlier moments in our conversation that when I do this a lot when I do my workshop. I do tons. I write a lot about autoethnography.
Mhm.
Autoethnography everywhere. That's the stuff that I do and I enjoy. When I was in graduate school, though, when I do autoethnography workshops, I go back to my transcripts, and I had in my master's and doctoral programs at both of my schools, I had 13 or 14 classes strictly about method. So I had multiple classes in phenomenology and ethnomethodology and textual analysis and performances and method, and two classes in autoethnography, three classes in ethnography, two classes in rhetoric. So I never ever identify solely as an autoethnographer, but it's been one of those things that I mean, across my work, I have projects that I use a bunch of different methods. Broadly, like I know what interviews are. Like I did that with journalism. My journalism background. But sometimes, you will. For me, I've had the opportunity. Somebody will say, "Hey, can you write can you write a short piece on autoethnography here?" And then somebody will say, "Hey, can you can you collaborate with me on this autoethnography? Sure, sure. Hey, do you want to edit this with me? Sure, let's go. And so did I ever choose to do all like so much auto? No, no, not at all. But looking back, it's just they've been beautiful sort of moments of okay, I'll that project seems exciting. And so many of these so much of my work has stemmed from all of my collaborations have been with just lovely people who the collaboration's never about the product for me. It's been about the relationship and how much fun it is. And so that's a hoot. And if it's not going to be fun, I'm not gonna if I'm not going to enjoy it or if it's going to be too rigid, not going to deal with not going to do it. So, and part of that comes with
Makes
age,
sense.
and I have all these books, I'm not going to read all these books before I'm dead, and there's a there's a sadness in this, and also I better get going while I'm still because there's so much I want to do. Yeah, before I can't.
Paying
So
attention to the things
that's a
that
morbid
matter.
that's a morbid kind of way to start in this.
But also freeing, right? Also
And
freeing
freeing.
because you
Yeah.
can look for the things that you're really after.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But I'm so delighted that you accepted the invitation. I'm glad that
absolutely.
we were able to connect and chat, and hopefully I'll see you somewhere along the academic circuit of conferences or somewhere in
Absolutely.
person at some point. And certainly glad to share about your work.
Great. I do a plug for IANI.org,
Of course.
IAANI.org, International Association of Autoethnography and Narrative Inquiry. A bunch of us run this and that's over and play with it, and we do an in-person conference every other year, and we've been doing an online conference every year, and it's just been magical because I think it's a good online conference. And I think this is where the communication aspect of some of our training comes in, that we know have a general sense, at least philosophically, of technology, and we can construct the conference how we like, and it's very engaging in conversation, and I think people conversational, and I think people really like it. And we're in our sixth year next year. And it's going to be in six languages. How cool is
Awesome.
that?
Awesome.
Like, come on.
Very,
And it's
very
inexpensive
cool.
and yeah, so go there. ioni.org. That's the plug I want to make.
I will check it out. I will absolutely check it out.
Great. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
It's really great
absolutely.
having a conversation with you.